Over the past 100 years, European agriculture has undergone a profound transformation. From steam to silicon, from iron beasts to intelligent machines, this is the story of farm machinery through a century of innovation across the continent. Imagine a time when the heartbeat of a farm was the steady trot of a horse, when harvests were measured not only by the weather, but by the strength of one's back. Now compare that to today, where satellites orbiting 36,000 kilometers above the Earth guide tractors and combines that need no driver, where robotic arms milk cows while farmers sip coffee and check data dashboards. Some might disagree with that, but you get the gist of it. This is not just a story of machinery, it's a story of people, of post-war reliance on the fields of Flanders and the alpine integrity of Switzerland, and of a collective innovation from the rolling hills from Andalusia to the plains of Hungary. Over the next 12 chapters, we'll journey decade by decade through revolutions in engineering design and agricultural philosophy. Well, hello everybody, you're very welcome back to the channel. And yes, this is the 100th video, my 100th video. It's something to celebrate. It's nearly 2 years since I started this channel, since I started posting videos, which was started as a little bit of fun, and it is, as I always say, still a little bit of fun. It's not for any major monetary gains or anything. Promote a little bit of business and to have a bit of crack and to meet new people, and I have done that in abundance over the last 2 years, and I've made a lot of new friends from this channel as well. So first things first, today there's one thing I would like to mention. Today was a sad day around County Meath, and particularly around Slane, with the death of Lord Henry Mount Charles. Now, anyone who knows me or watches this channel regularly will know that I have a strong connection with the Slane Castle estate, having worked the land there for years and years. Some 600-700 acres of tillage land around Slane Castle estate is farmed by an old employer of mine, and I worked there. I worked the land for years, and I was lucky enough to meet Lord Henry Mount Charles on several occasions, and he is a gentleman. He was a pioneer as well, obviously bringing rock music to Ireland throughout the last 40, 50 odd years, as long as the Slane concerts have been going on. So I just want to send my condolences out to the Cunningham family, and I will be raising a glass of Slane whiskey in the memory of Lord Henry Mount Charles tonight. To everybody who watches this channel week after week, who regularly comments, all the subscribers, thank you very much everybody. It means the world to me that this channel is still going, and I do get a little bit of fun out of it, a little bit of crack, a little bit of slagging, a little bit of banter, and I do learn a lot as well, not just from what I research, but from what I learn from other people, from people in the comments. Mostly it's fantastic, the response that I do get. So yeah, this is 100 years. We're looking at farming evolution and change over 100 years. Now, I was recently at the cereal show over in the UK, and the technology that's in sprayers, seed technology at the minute, is mind-boggling. What they can do with AI, from pulse width modulated sprayers to spot sprayers with cameras that can identify individual weeds and just target that particular weed, stuff like that. Obviously GPS, section control, all that kind of stuff. It's mind-boggling. But we won't forget about the older stuff, the more regular stuff, the day-to-day stuff that us meagre, modest farmers don't rely so much on. So we're not going to spend too long. I'm not going to spend too long talking crap. So I'm going to get into the video now. I've broken it down into chapters. Anyone who knows me knows I love my history. I love history. I love the past. I love learning about the past. And it's important that we don't forget about the past. The pioneers and people have gone before. My love is in the late 80s, early 90s. That era of machinery, I think it was the right amount of comfort, the right amount of styling, comfort, engines, and just the right amount of technology, not too much into the electrical end of things. So somewhere around that era, the late 80s, early 90s. So you're into your 6000 John Deeres, the 6000 series John Deeres. They would be of my favourites. 6, 7 and 8000 series John Deeres of that era will be my favourites, and of course some of the Massey Fergusons as well. Anyway, we're going to hit it off now. We're going to get into chapter 1. So chapter 1, 1920s, so the first mechanised steps. So in the 1920s, many European farmers still relied on horses and manual labour. Mechanisation was only beginning to take root. The British-built Fordson Model F was among the earliest mass-produced tractors widely used across Europe. In Germany, companies like Lanz introduced the Bulldog, an iconic single-cylinder, hot bulb tractor that became a staple on European farms. Smaller manufacturers, including Renault in France and Fiat Trattori in Italy, began developing their first tractor models during this decade, establishing the groundwork for later mechanization. The Great Depression, so looking into the 1930s and the adoption of adversity. So the Great Depression, the interwar stability slowed agricultural progress, yet necessity spurred ingenuity. German manufacturers like Dietz, Fendt and Eicher began producing tractors such as the Dietz F1M414 and the Fendt Dieselross, machines known for their reliability and fuel efficiency. And of course, we have spoken about all of these tractors on this channel at some stage in the past. So anyone who's into their Dyson or their Fendt Dieselross, go back, we have videos on them. So in Scandinavia, of course, Volvo began agricultural machinery production, while Eastern European cooperatives experimented with shared mechanization to cope with economic strain. Though still limited in scope, mechanization began to spread in regions like France, Belgium, and of course into the Netherlands. Now, I rely on a lot of things for my for content for these videos. I rely on magazines such as, you know, Good Old Classic Tractor, old books that I have at home from the 80s, and some books are there from the 70s, and magazines that my father has had. I look online, I find plenty of good information online. But I've also adapted a little bit of AI, but I don't use it for research. So, you know, when you look at across 100 years of technology, I am trying to use everything in my disposal to help me with these videos. So I use AI to a lot of the videos to try and put it, all my words, my editing into some sort of coherent sort of structured format. I give it the information and it puts it into some structured format. I'm not an English teacher. I'm not any good at English. So it does help me. So the same can be said in farming, regardless of what age you are, what size your farm is. Don't be afraid to use technology. Don't be afraid of technology. Don't be stuck in the dark ages. It's out there to be used. So chapter 3 looks at the 1940s, so war and reconstruction. So World War II disrupted agriculture, but also greatly advanced engineering. Many factories were repurposed for military equipment, but post-war reconstruction saw an urgent need for food security, and agricultural machinery surged. And this is a topic that comes up in almost every single video that I have done. In all the major manufacturers around the 1940s have been born out of the war, out of factories, out of workers, and the engineering that went into building, you know, tanks and stuff that was then changed into building farm machinery. Tractors would have come out of that. They would have been born out of the technology that was learned during the war. So German brands, of course, like Porsche Diesel and MAN entered tractor production, while Fiat's crawler tractors gained traction from Italy's rugged terrain. So section 4 then, 1950s, mechanization really starts to take hold. So in the 1950s, that marked rapid mechanization across, you know, Western Europe, especially. Governments incentivized modern farming under the initiatives like the European Recovery Plan. Massey Ferguson, formed through Transatlantic Cooperation, became a household name in Britain and across France and Scandinavia. The Renault D22 and the Fiat 25R became popular models in southern Europe. In Germany, Fortschritt began manufacturing combines for East German collectives. Eastern Bloc countries also embraced state-driven mechanization. For the first time, tractors outnumbered working horses in countries like Denmark and Netherlands. Into the 1960s then, and integration and innovation. So European agriculture modernized rapidly in the 1960s. The Common Agricultural Policy, or the famous CAP as we know it, fueled investment in machinery. Zetor from Czechoslovakia at the time expanded its presence across the Eastern Bloc and beyond. Class revolutionized harvesting with models like the Matador, and in France, Sami grew in popularity for versatility mid-sized tractors. Hydraulics and PTO systems became standard, transforming tractors into all-purpose machines. So for those of you who do read Classic Tractor magazine, and it is one of my favourites, in July's edition I do have a section that I wrote for Classic Tractor on the famous John Deere 4350. It's just a short section, some lovely pictures in it there as well. Of course there is loads of good articles in that magazine, so a small section that maybe some of you have seen already, and it was great to be given the opportunity to do that and have it published. So thanks to the guys at Classic Tractor magazine, and I am giving away a copy of Classic Tractor magazine towards the end of the video. So anyone who wants to win a copy of Classic Tractor magazine for August, not this one, just stay watching and I'll have a question. Okay, so into the 1970s, power and precision. This is chapter 6. So with rising energy costs and increasing demand for food, the 1970s focused on productivity. Large tractors like the Fiat 1300 DT and the Renault 1181-4 delivered more horsepower for larger farms in France, Spain and Italy. Electronics began appearing on dashboards. Deutz Fahr expanded its lineup with fuel-efficient models like the Intrac series. Diesel European manufacturers like Belarus mass-produced simple, rugged machines for both domestic and export markets. Air seeder drills and chemical crop sprayers became more advanced, helping maximise inputs on a growing scale. Moving into section 7, or chapter 7, the 1980s, electronics entered a cab, and Massey Ferguson, one of the first to introduce, obviously, electronics into their cabs, or into their systems. So in the 1980s, European farms embraced computing. Companies like Valtra and Lindner in Austria emerged as leaders in compact, smart designs suited to alpine and mixed farming. GPS prototypes were tested, while Claas and New Holland introduced more efficient combines and balers. German engineers at Fendt pushed automation and comfort, including and introduced an air suspension cabs and computerized monitoring. In the East, cooperative farms increasingly relied on mass-produced MTZ and 40-shift machines, albeit with limited innovation due to economic constraints. So if you want to win this copy of Classic Tractor, not this copy, August copy of Classic Tractor magazine, here's a question for you. As this video is somewhat celebrating my 100 videos, tell me, what is the most popular video on my channel? Which video has been watched the most? Very, very simple to find out. So chapter 8, we're looking at the 1990s. So in the 1990s, that marked a rise in precision farming. Satellite guided equipment began to enter European fields. GPS systems by companies like Topcon and Trimble, often integrated with John Deere or Case IH imports, allowed continental farmers to reduce waste. Claas launched the Lexine series combine, among the most advanced globally. Fendt's varied transmission stunned the industry with its seamless performance. The EU promoted environmentally friendly farming, encouraging tech that could cut inputs while preserving yields. Into the 2000s then, in chapter 9, looking at automation and connectivity. So looking at connectivity, so connectivity defined the 2000s. So obviously Isobus became, the European standard for implement compatibility. And anyone who's not familiar with what Isobus is, it's just a standardized connection. It's a framework that allows the implement on the back, so that could be a sprayer, and the tractor hardware to talk to each other. So it's a bus system, it's a CAN bus system, so it's an ISO bus. So it allows the sprayer to talk to the tractor, and so things like ground speed and various things, RPM, can be relayed from one to the other, and they can both work in sync with each other. So it is a standardized connection. So an Isobus system on a John Deere sprayer will work seamlessly in a Fendt tractor, and so on. It just allows this compatibility, and it is obviously fantastic when it works properly, because sometimes software from one machine isn't compatible with software from the other machine. If you have an older Isobus machine, it's not compatible with your machine and needs updates and stuff like that, and it can be head-wrecking. But anyway, dairy farming underwent quite a revolution with automatic milking systems from Lely and Delaval, freeing up labour. So, and of course, Agri-Technique, which is held in Hanover biannually, so it became the premier global showcase for innovation. European manufacturers worked on emission standards, introducing Tier 3 compliant engines ahead of schedule. And this for me is where it all went wrong with engines and engine technology. And it's not a manufacturer's fault, it's a regulation problem. EGR was around for a long time before that. We could work around EGRs, no problem, blanking them off. Stuff like that was easy enough worked around. But when you get into the electronic fuel injection, common rail was okay, and then you had DPF systems introduced. And I think everybody knows from that, that's where a lot of issues start. And you have to have various sensors on the engine, which I won't get into now, that just basically cause nothing but trouble, flashing codes and such like. And you just harp back for the days when you could just pull a stopper to stop an engine and turn a key to start it. And like the simplest of things. A lot of horsepower, obviously, with, emission standards stuff introduced onto engines. A lot of horsepower is sapped up by these things. They need a lot of electrical power to drive them. So it does sap horsepower. And tractors these days, machinery, they are less fuel efficient because of it, and when you have a DPF that blocks up and then you have to regen it, as people are aware, it just blows the soot up into the air and it's back out into the atmosphere. And it's really it's only a box ticking exercise. To me, that's all I can see it as. So chapter 10 then, the 2010s and the rise of smart farming. So the 2010s brought cloud computing and mobile control to the fore. Apps allow farmers to manage fleets remotely. Trimble's ag software, Class Telematics and John Deere Operations Centre became part of daily operations. Drones from European firms like Delar and Parrot performed aerial scouting, identifying nutrient deficiencies. AI-assisted machinery like Lemkin's IC Weeder began selective weeding using real-time imagery. From the Iberian Peninsula to Polish wheat fields, precision was no longer a luxury, it was a necessity. 2020s then, autonomy and sustainability. So today, Europe leads in sustainability, autonomous agriculture, the Fendt Saver, so XAVER, swarm robots, and the Ag Exceed autonomous carriers manage fields with minimal human input. And anybody who doesn't know what those are, I have pictures of them up there now. I did see the Ag Exceed working at the cereals event. So it's basically an autonomous tractor with no cab, no operator, everything is remotely controlled. It's in its development stage, it's in trials and it's being tested. It will have a huge part to play going forward as regards driverless controls. Not so much in Ireland, small amount in UK, continental Europe, into Russia, into Ukraine, the wheat fields. Yeah, definitely will have a huge part to play. And I think in smaller farms where you need precision, so maybe in the veg sector, I think it will definitely have a part to play, and it does play a part already in the veg sector. So autonomy and that AI is coming thick and fast, and it's multiplying month by month the amount of technology that is available through AI. It's frightening how quick the technology is moving. It's like the next industrial revolution. It's incredible. So electric and hybrid tractors from Soltrack and Rigitrack are helping farms in Switzerland and the UK reduce emissions. Organic producers use advanced inter-row hose and camera-guided tools from manufacturers such as Garford. Now, Garford are precision hose, precision seeders, and they will be using camera technology to spot weeds, and the cameras can see where the row is, and it will guide the hoe or whatever it is down the row. It's incredible technology. It's mind-boggling to look at it with the precision that it works at. The emissions thing, look at tractors are not going to be going electric for a long time. If ever, they will probably be hydrogen on a greater scale before they will ever be electric. The emissions thing, well, look at, it's just another tax. That's the way I see it. It's just another way of robbing money out of us. It's not that I don't care about the environment, but I think what they are pushing on us is overstated. What they are saying the effect of farming is having, I think it's definitely overstated, and that's a video for another day if you ask me. So into the last section, and beyond machinery, a new landscape. So machinery is only one part of the equation. European agriculture has embraced full systems integration from seed to satellite. Vertical farming robots in the Netherlands, water-saving drip systems in Spain, and AI-based crop planning platforms in Germany point to a connected, responsive future. And still, heritage meets innovation, where 100-year-old family farms operate fleets of machines that would have seemed like science fiction just decades ago. So the conclusion, from the roar of the Lance Bulldog to the whisper of an autonomous swarm tractor, European farm machinery has charted a century of transformation. The road ahead promises a future of change, but one rooted in sustainability, intelligence, and of course heritage. And heritage is the big one that we will never forget. And from what I can see, it's more important now than ever to remember the past. A lot of us harp back to the past, and when you've got those videos out there on YouTube, you can just sit and you can look at them all day and you can say, wow, wasn't that so simple? Wouldn't that be just a dream to be back in those days? Videos like Casted and Vintage, the Fenland Crusader. So these guys really promote the old way. Anyone who's into their Fordsons, especially the Fordson Majors, if you watch the Fenland Crusader, if you haven't already, I love his channel. He has some brilliant stuff there on Fordsons, mechanical and working them as well, old combines, old Massey Ferguson combines, brilliant. Of course, my good old friend, the Flying Fergie Man, aka Cahill. Cahill is only his by name. He's really the Flying Fergie Man, showing off the older, from the 70s and 80s older machinery. Casted and Vintage then is another one of my favourite. And Massey Dave is doing his bit as well, restoring old 1200s and 1250 Massey Fergusons. So they're some of my favourites. If anybody is into looking back in time on the history of machinery, 4 good channels to look out for. So that's really it. That's it. Thank you very much for everyone for watching. I will be back next week with number 101. Thank you.